Welcome to Mild Moodcast, a podcast meant to explore mental health through the lens of another human hanging on by a thread. I'm Bianca, a registered mental health counselor intern, soon to be LMHC, here to chat about the topics we don't get enough of. So grab your headphones and let's dive into the crazy world of mental health. It's going to be a wild ride. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Mild Moodcast. Today's episode, we are talking about the next attachment style, avoidant attachment. So the title is Avoidant Attachment and the Fear of Being Known, Breaking the Wall. Obviously, if I talked about one, I wanted to talk about another. There's 4 in all, so it's very likely that I will continue talking about these. But as always, while my podcast is meant to spark reflection and curiosity, it is not a replacement for therapy. If you're navigating heavy emotions or challenges, please reach out to a professional. Therapy is a safe space to process and grow. So let's talk about avoidant attachment. The version of attachment wounds that often gets overlooked because it's quieter. It's more internal. It's not loud or dramatic. It's the version that pulls away instead of clinging. It says, I'm fine, when everything inside you says otherwise. Avoidant attachment doesn't always show up as fear. It shows up as distance. It shows up as hyper-independence, hesitation, needing space, needing control. And behind all of that, a deep, deep fear of being seen. A fear of being known. This isn't about not caring. It's about caring so much that you'd rather protect yourself than risk being disappointed. It's about learning early on that emotional needs weren't safe to express. Or worse, they were a burden. So you became the one who didn't need anything, the one who held it all together, the one who stayed strong. But here's the truth. Your strength is real, and it's valid, but it shouldn't have to cost you connection. So today we're unpacking what avoidant attachment really is and where it comes from, how it shows up in your life, and how to start softening the walls without losing yourself in the process. So let's break it down. First, let's name it. Avoidant attachment is one of the 4 attachment styles, as I said a minute ago, and it typically develops when closeness wasn't modeled as safe or reliable. Maybe the caregivers in your life were emotionally distant, or they encouraged independence to the point of emotional neglect. Maybe they shut down your needs without even realizing it. So you adapted. You learned to rely on yourself. You learned that vulnerability didn't lead to comfort. It led to disappointment or shame. And as a result now, you crave connection, but fear the cost of it. So how do I know if someone is avoidantly attached? What are some common signs? You feel overwhelmed or suffocated by emotional closeness, even when you want connection. You value independence so highly that asking for help feels like failure. You withdraw or shut down When conflict or emotions feel intense, you struggle to express your needs and may not even know what your needs are. Imagine a moment, and maybe you don't have to imagine because it's your real life. It's hard for you to tell people what you need, but you don't even know what that is. You're so far removed from that feeling. You're often described as guarded, hard to read, or emotionally unavailable. Even if deep down you feel a lot. And here's the kicker: people with avoidant attachment often look confident and put together. But what's going on underneath is usually a mixture of anxiety, mistrust, and grief that's never been given room to breathe. So, what does avoidant attachment protect you from? The fear of being known. This is the core. It isn't just about space, it's about protection. It's not just, I don't want to get close. It's, I'm terrified of what will happen if I do. Let's talk about the fear behind the wall. Fear of relying on someone who might let you down. Fear of showing your emotions and being met with judgment or rejection. I feel like in a lot of other episodes too, we've talked a lot about rejection in general, or just you've heard the word quite a few times, but this is one of those places where it's really, really showing its head. Fear of losing control. If someone sees the parts of you that feel messy, chaotic, or unsure. Fear that if someone really knew you, they'd walk away. So instead, you stay 2 steps back. You connect just enough, but not too much. You care silently. You love in ways that feel safe. With distance, with logic, with restraint. And it makes sense because at some point in your life, that was how you survived. If you didn't play it safe, you were met with judgment. You were met with rejection. You got to feel what that chaos, that mess, that lack of security felt like. Maybe you were walked away from. But here's what I need you to know: keeping people at arm's length might protect you from pain, but it also keeps you from real intimacy. And most avoidant folks I know want love. They just want it on terms that feel safe. And safety, ironically, starts with allowing yourself to be seen. So let's bring this into everyday life, right? Because avoidant attachment doesn't just show up in relationships, it shows up everywhere. You might notice it in relationships that never quite get deep. You keep it surface level, or you'll purposefully date people who are emotionally unavailable so you don't have to risk it either. Duh, that's easy. Maybe you find yourself in a lot of friendships where you're the listener, the strong one, but you rarely open yourself up, which is kind of where a percentage of that mystery comes from. People might look at you and be like, you're so mysterious. Conflict avoidance. You shut down or disappear instead of engaging. Feeling like your worth is tied to being low maintenance. Believing that needing someone is a weakness, even when you're struggling. It can even look like self-sabotage, ending things before they get too real. And I mean, really ask yourself, how many things have you ended before they got too real? How many times have you withdrawn from someone when they got too close? Or convinced yourself in order to, I guess, kind of validate that decision that you don't care when really you care a lot. It's a bit of a tough pill to recognize as a pattern because maybe you know that this is a part of you, but verbalizing that this is your pattern doesn't feel good. Okay, so let's talk about what healing actually looks like, because the goal isn't to become anxiously attached. I know we talked about that last week, and the next one actually is anxious avoidant because you can mix the two. But the goal is to create secure connection where you can be close to others and feel safe. I don't want you to get to a point where you feel the exact opposite of shutting down. I need the reassurance. I need someone to be there. I don't feel okay when they're not there. We want to create security. So, how do we do that? Step one, start by noticing your protective patterns. There's this saying of get out of your head and into your body. And I feel like that super applies here because you can't change what you're not aware of. I always say that you have to interrupt things as they're happening. So start catching the moments where you pull away. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. And if you've been listening for a long time, we talk about not doing things with judgment all the time. Because what is the point of judging yourself? It's going to make you feel stuck. It's going to make you feel like you can't change, right? And that's what we don't want. Ask yourself, what made me want to shut down just now? What emotion am I trying not to feel? Is this a real threat? Or is this my nervous system trying to protect me? Step two, build emotional vocabulary. Lots of avoidant people struggle to name what they're feeling. So practice slowing down and asking yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? And I talk about the feelings wheel periodically, but it's just the number one thing that I throw at my clients because you might know exactly what happy emotion you're feeling, but a huge part of being avoidant is avoiding it to yourself. You're not comfortable with the uncomfortable. You're not comfortable recognizing what your negative emotions are because maybe for you that makes them real. So picking up that feelings wheel, grabbing as many words resonate as possible, allows you to do that self-check of what am I actually feeling right now? And then ask, what do I need? Not, what do I think I should need? Because when I ask, what do I think I should need? Or I say, well, you don't need that. You should need this. That's judgment. 3, experiment with safe vulnerability. Ugh, I can't say this enough. Don't jump to full exposure. Why? When we're not used to something and we just try to throw ourselves, completely immerse ourselves in things, because maybe that's how we were taught. You don't get it, you immerse yourself fully, you do it, you go for it. We are a lot more likely to fall off when we jump straight into something like this. Why? Well, if you think about hypervigilance that we were talking about last week, when your brain perceives something as not being safe, you're going to go fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And then when you've tried to jump straight into something and it isn't successful, we're our biggest critic, right? So here you are thinking, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I don't know why I even decided to start. So, in order to save yourself some of the trouble, we want to start with small disclosures in relationships where safety already exists. Try saying, I'm not used to opening up like this, but I want to try. That's so honest. I'm not used to this thing, but I want to try. Or even, I need a little space right now. Not because I'm angry, just because I'm processing. These small shifts matter. A minute ago, I said that one of the number one things that avoidants do is disappear. If you can express that you need a little bit of space, not because you're angry, but because you're processing, you are retraining your nervous system to feel safe with closeness instead of seeing it as a threat. You got to remember that everybody has their limits, right? So we're not trying to push you past your limit. We're not saying, yeah, you got to jump in and you got to communicate immediately. No, because that's not realistic. But your first step, instead of disappearing, can be to communicate that you need space. And I also want to caution you a little bit for that, because maybe you are the type of person that can communicate that you need a little bit of space, or maybe you're going to dip your toes into it. Be very mindful. Try to be very mindful, because I can't tell you what to do, right? Try to be very mindful of why you need a little bit of space and just how much space you're taking. It's okay to need space. It's okay to take a little bit. But when you take the space to avoid, that's when things become more difficult, because we can't use I need a little bit of space as an excuse to be avoidant. The key is to take the space and take the time to process. You can't tell someone you're processing and then don't process it and then not process it, right? So if you're going to take the space, it's okay. Maybe you need 20 minutes. Maybe you need 30 minutes. Hell, maybe you need an hour just expressing. I'm going to take about an hour and then I'm going to come back, because we don't want to get into the habit of forcing other people to wait for you, for long periods of time. But communicating, I need an extended amount of time to be able to think about this, to be able to get my nervous system on board. And I say that because I don't want to teach you one avoidant response to replace another. Can't go from ghosting to verbalizing that you're going to go ghost. You know what I'm saying? So just be very careful that when you're taking that space, you're actually meeting the emotion head on, just in your own way. Again, it retrains your nervous system to feel safe with closeness instead of seeing it as a threat. But if you were to just disappear, say that you were disappearing and not deal with it, it's not helping you become more comfortable with closeness. It's not helping you not see this situation as a threat, because nothing got dealt with. Step 4, and this is a tough one for my avoidance significantly. Let others show up for you. And it's hard, I know, but allowing yourself to be supported doesn't make you weak. It makes you brave. Start with letting someone help with something small, and then notice what comes up in your body. Get out of your head and back into your body. Remind yourself It's safe to receive. I don't have to do everything alone. And just heavy on phrases that remind you and your nervous system that you are safe, that it is safe to do and try. It's hard because, as I said earlier, when you're an avoidant, you tend to surround yourself with people who are the same way. Surrounding yourself by people who are avoidant just like you makes it that much harder to grow because they're not going to be receptive to the fact that you're trying to be open. And that's something really important to notice. I think it's been a little bit of like a continuous theme throughout the weeks is really analyzing the people who are surrounding you, the people that you would consider your support system. Are they people who allow you to continue being avoidant? They enable that behavior. Or are they people who are going to be open to when you start to make those changes? It's really important to consider. Because again, it's just that much harder when it's not received well. And I can't tell you what to do with your life. I can't tell you to drop people. But I can tell you that if we truly want change, we have to make changes, even if they don't feel good. Not at first, anyway. Your independence is not a flaw. It's beautiful. It probably carried you through some really hard seasons. But you're allowed to rewrite the story now. You're allowed to be held, to be understood, to be known, to be loved without needing to shrink or disappear. Healing avoidant attachment isn't about becoming someone else. It's about giving yourself permission to soften, to stop hiding behind strength, to let connection be safe. Not because you're in control of every outcome, but because you trust yourself to handle what comes. There are a lot of instances where we feel unworthy of the change that we are trying to create. Or you might be met with someone who is emotionally available and kind, and fear is convincing you that you aren't allowed to accept someone like that into your life, that you're not worthy of having someone like that in your life, that you will fumble and mess it up, and all of your past hurts and thoughts will come up and tell you, see, I told you so. And because of that fear, it cements you in place. And if I may, let me be the first to remind you that the effort that you put in does not ever go unnoticed. When you are surrounded by people who care for you, who love you, who want to see that best version of you, they will create that secure and safe space, never once expecting perfection, because they're not perfect themselves. They'll falter. And that doesn't mean that you're just going to drop them because they do one thing wrong. It may not feel like it's a part of you yet, but it is who you are becoming, and it's possible. And the moment that we recognize that fear is just fear, we're better able to work through all of those emotions. To say, I can try, I can step forward and truly see how it goes. Scary? Sure. Gonna take a lot of work? Probably. But anything worth having or doing takes work and requires bravery. I commend you for being brave. Even if you don't feel brave, I know you are. This might have swirled up some emotions in your chest and made you look at the ways that you especially don't feel brave, but just by listening, just by making it this far and recognizing that something's got to give, that's really brave of you. If this hits home for you, take a moment to reflect. What's one small way you can let someone in this week? Just a little more than usual. Or maybe it's with yourself. Naming a feeling you've been avoiding. I would love for you guys to DM me your reflections on Instagram. I'd love to hear what resonated. And if you know someone who might see themselves in this episode, go ahead and send it their way. And quite honestly, listen to this as many times as you want to. Whatever helps remind you that you are worthy of change and love and a future that isn't led by your past hurts. Thanks for always listening, guys. Have an amazing week. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Mild Moodcast. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. If you have any burning questions or topics you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on YouTube at Mild Moodcast and Instagram at Mild Mood Therapy. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the wonderful world of mental health together. Until next time, stay curious and keep smiling.